Well, hi. How's it going? Right on, right on, right on. Welcome to the Neighborhood Bike Shop and episode 3 of the AMP B3 research reassembly. And I'm excited for this. It's been a while. I've had a couple jobs that have come in that have kind of pushed this to the background, and paying jobs come first. That's the way it is for me. Anyhow, so today I'm going to be putting on pretty much everything else. The first thing I'm going to be doing is doing a derailleur alignment guide, a DAG, on the rear derailleur hanger. Make sure that that's nice and straight. And then after that, I'm going to throw the brakes on front and rear. After I throw the brakes on front and rear, I'm going to throw on the rear derailleur and the front derailleur. And then I'll start stacking the bars with the various awesome components, like the ones from John Grafton. By the way, notice John's poster's got a special new place in my shop, in the Shotson, and I'm stoked on. Again, John, you rock, dude. You're the best. Thank you so much, and these are going to look so good on here. It's going to be amazing. This is going to be a bike that I think a few people are going to be really into. Anyhow, so I'm going to go ahead and move away from this and just kind of move into the doing it kind of thing. I'm going to try some different camera angles. I've had some people report in the comments they'd like to see better photography. Me too. I only have an iPhone, like an old iPhone, like an iPhone 6, to make all my videos. I have a GoPro, but just the frame rate on it and the editing software that I'm using, it does not get along with it. And then I have another laptop that I could film from a different angle, like from a little laptop fold up and put somewhere. But splicing all these things together really is like kind of beyond my capability with the software that I have right now. So I'm hearing your comments and I'm grateful for them. I'm looking forward to more of them. I hope you keep them coming. Don't feel bad if I don't implement them right away. I'm going to try to. I'll do the best I can to get them in there. Anyhow, enough of that shop talk. I just wanted to address some of the people out there, the subscribers that had messaged in and had some advice, and tell them thank you for it and keep it coming. Anyhow, so on to the AMP Research B3, a 1993 fully suspended mountain bike that used, you know, really kind of advanced technology for its time. It was one of the very first bikes that had disc brake mounts from the factory. Anyhow, here we go. Let's do this. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just use my DAG, my derailleur alignment guide tool, to make sure that the hanger is straight. And I do that by pressing the derailleur alignment guide's measuring rod up against the rim. And there's a little rubber seal down on this guy that kind of marks where it touched it. And then I have to check in a variety of locations around the bike to make sure that that's within 1 millimeter of where it needs to be on all of the rim to make this basically straight. And I believe, and the theory is you should be able to spin it all the way around and keep the same gap on the rim. Nugget more. Okay, that should be perfect. In fact, I know some guys that they will only measure the same location on the rim. Like they'll do every measurement at the stem, right? And then when they move it to another location, they measure it at the stem. And when they measure it to another location, they'll measure it at the stem, right? And it's it's sixes, you know, like however you want to do it, but the end result is, you know, you need to have this derailleur hanger aligned with the rear wheel, and make sure that the wheels is set completely in the dropouts, that it's not out of the dropouts at all. Anyhow, this is good to go. Time for a rear derailleur hanger. Sweet. Okay, let's put a derailleur on. And now that I know that the hanger's straight, and there's already grease. Sorry, I gotta focus or I'm gonna squirt this all over everything. There's already grease in here because when I put my derailleur alignment guide in, it's already got grease on the cap of it. So it's pre-greased already, but I still end up putting grease on the derailleur just, you know, to make sure. And I've got my torque setting at 5. And just like that, on to the next. All right, time for the front derailleur. Little teeny bit of grease. Just get it around the seat post, with the seat tube. And again, my torque wrench is set to 5, but I am going to be moving this around a bit during this process, and I may have to switch wrenches just because I can't get a full spin with this in the right location. Okay, I'm looking for about 2 millimeters of clearance over the top of the largest chain ring on the crankset. Okay, and then I am aligning the inner cage of the derailleur to the cogs. I'm not worrying what the outer cage is doing. I'm just dealing with the inner cage. And done. Time to move on. Now for the next thing. All right. Now I'm just going to put on the brakes and a little bit of grease. You're going to need that here in a second. And now I've got the spring tension on the arm itself out of place so that I can align it with the hole that I want. There are 3 different holes that you can choose from on this particular assembly to change the spring rate of the caliper. I want the most power that I can, so I'm going to put it in the 3rd hole. It ain't. Okay. Then following that comes grease and the washer that came with it. Nice. And same thing with this. I've disconnected the spring on the housing so I can move it out. Okay, disconnect this so I can move it out and position it exactly where I want it and what hole I want it to go into. Little bit of grease. And I will torque these up to the right torque tension when I'm doing my final tune on the whole bike. I'm just kind of assembling it and making sure that it's playing nice all the way around before I do any kind of tunage. So I can tell that needs to be tuned in a big way right there. Boy howdy, that pad needs to come way down. Anyhow, that's the rear one. On to the back one, or the front one. Now let's put the front brakes on. Bolts, they have washers on them. Put them in my mouth for good keeping. Caliper, grease. A little bit of grease there. A little bit of grease there. Grease there. Grease there. Disconnect the spring. Got it into the correct hole. Place the Z bolt. Other caliper, take the spring off. There we go. Nice. It's really important to take the spring, the caliper rebound spring, and detach it when you're installing this kind of stuff, because it'll just make it a million times easier to get it lined up. Otherwise, you're fighting it under tension. And fighting anything under tension on these bikes is no bueno. In fact, I want to make sure that washer goes on exactly perfect. Okay. Nice. There we go. Sweet. Attach the spring. And we're getting ready to adjust. Oh, you know what? I put the rear pads, the rear calipers on the front and the front calipers on the rear. I'm going to switch them while you're not looking, because that's why these things are so far out of adjustment. Cool. One moment. Right. So, at the end of the last segment, I had realized that I had put the brake calipers that had originally been on this bike on the front, on the back, and on the back, on the front. In other words, their brake pads were already set up for the rim. And so just by switching them, I got them much closer to the tune that they had on them already. So it was no big deal, just swapped them, boom, bada bing. Now we're on to the next part, which is the fun part, if you ask me. All the shifters and all the good stuff going on. Okay, these Grafton levers that I'm putting on right now, pardon me, I'm being very, very delicate with, and the bolt that holds him in place isn't even in the caliper, or I mean in the clamp assembly. And it just makes it that much easier to get these things kind of in the position that we envision them later on. Yeah. And sneak preview, this will go on there. Nice. And we'll go under. Sweet. Okay, one of the things I was hinting or alluding to earlier in the video was these end caps. Well, I wanted to cover these things up with these brake lever covers so I could get the white motif that would be consistent with the entire bike. And so I was thinking maybe I could put the whole thing over the top of it. So when I stuck the brake lever cover on it and I started pulling, the cover came off with it. So when I take it out of there, this became like a tool to remove it, and it will be that much easier to cut these off and put them on in place of those, which will be awesome. And in the meantime, I might as well just go ahead and place these guys, because they can move around a little bit. I don't mind if these are a little bit looser. This bike is not going to be ridden hardcore. It's not going to be taken off and ridden on some crazy mountain bike ride. It's going to be very simple rides that get addressed by this bike, right? Now we want to see what this looks like with the grips on. I think I'm going to go this way, y'all. Y'all. Little denatured rubbing alcohol. There we go. And I like my grips lined up very precisely. And I'm still like deciding whether I want to put bar ends on here or not. I don't think so, but maybe at some point. Either way. By using denatured alcohol in this sense to put on the grips, it's kind of nice because it allows you a bit of time to readjust them. As in, they don't just like instantly, like if you're using hairspray, they don't instantly kind of settle up to where they were. Okay, nice, nice. Now for the next part, trimming of these. Okay, what I'm doing in here is I'm deciding the length of this caliper extension, or the caliper cover on here. And I want the little finger groovies to be on the outside of it for some reason. I don't know why. Just because it'll match this at the same time. So I am going to start, I'd rather cut too little off than to cut too much off. So we're going to start by cutting at the second knuckle right there. Knowing that this is going to have to be done a couple times, more than likely. Okay, so I cut a piece off. And that'll be good enough for right now. Now I know at the second knuckle that I can get a good gription on here, and that I can get a little bit of extra in case I need to trim it off. So I'll take the second one. And cut it off. Pretty sweet. Those were pretty rad looking on there, man, like that. Sweet. Okay, on to the next. Okay, next I'm going to be setting these controllers into their position, as it were. And then I'll be adjusting some other things. So the very first one that I'm going to do is the brake calipers. Oh man, these things are so beautiful. And again, I am not completely torquing them down. I'm just getting them to about the right place. Where I get them snug. Then I'll line them up. Even though that alignment is going to change again in the future, undoubtedly. All right. And then these guys. Now I'm going to hold my shifters up a little bit higher in position. Just to give me a little bit of flexibility and room with them. In fact, I'm going to leave a bit of a gap between the brake caliper lever and the shifter. And I want to make these the same on both sides. Just lining them up visually and getting it close. Now that is clean looking. Ooh. Oh, awesome. Okay, the next fun part is the bar end plugs. A little bit of alcohol, denatured alcohol. And I am aiming to put these in so that the logo is parallel with the frame top tube. Sweet. Oh man, those look good. Alcohol. And I'm going to have to twist these to ultimately make sure that they are completely flat with the frame, but we can get close. Huh. Huh. Just getting these started. Yeah, that's not happening. Oh, there's an edge. There's a complete edge on the inside of this bar that needs to be removed. Oh, see, that's what customization is all about, is you find the problems and then you resolve them. Hang on, I gotta resolve this problem. Okay, because of the lip that is on the inside of this bar, makes it so that this bar end plug won't fit. I am going to remove it by just grinding it down. There. Well, let's see if it works. It may not, and that's understandable. We will just move on from there if it don't work. Oh! Oh, it looks like I am going to have to modify this plug a little bit. But luckily, I've done this before. And by taking a small amount out, that still doesn't want to go in. Not having it. And it is all about that thread right there. Nice. And then, now that all the white is nice and dirty, I'm going to wipe it off very quickly with some of my cleaning fluid to get rid of the black marks on it. And in the future, I have to be very careful about these grips, because white, anything you touch that is white, that has any kind of discoloration to it, will instantly pick up that discoloration. That's another reason that this bike is pretty much going to be just for a wall and not for a bike ride, which is, I don't know, kind of sad, but it's also kind of the reality of it. So on we go. Super. Oh, that's sweet. Okay, now I'm going to put the pedals on, which is one of the very last steps before we start putting wires on here. Okay, so I am going to put a little bit of grease on my threads. Not a bunch, just a little. There's one. Wipe it off a little bit. Nice. Two. And again, I am going to tighten these up, but I do all of my tightening and torquing all at the same time on the bike. When I go in and tune the entire bike after it's cabled up is when I will go back in and check the torque on every single bolt that I install. Where appropriate. I mean, there's some places I can't. I don't have a crow's foot, so it's just always going to be a bit of a guess on pedals. But that's all right, because I feel confident that my guess on pedals is pretty freaking good. Nice. All right. So now that we got the grips on, the levers on, the shifters on, everything trimmed to at least approximately where it's going to go, and the pedals on, the very last things that we have left are going to be all the cables and housings and the final tune, which I'm going to save for the next episode. I'm trying to keep these shorter, so these are just small little bits. I hope you dig it. I'm going to leave you with a little bit of a look, up close look at what I did in this project so far. Okay, love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. I really think the finale of this bike is going to be well worth the wait. This is one beautiful build. I hope you enjoy it too. Okay, we'll see you in the next one. Later.